All right, so we should be live now. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Plunge into Tech webinar series. We're super excited. We'll just give people a couple more minutes to sign on. Hopefully we've got lots of people joining us now, but I'm so excited that we're here today with Jared Covili. We'll get started in just a minute or so. In the meantime, just for anyone who is joining us and hasn't seen any of the previous webinars, just so you know, Plunge into Tech is a series of absolutely free webinars that Corwin is putting on this summer to help you stay up to speed with some of the tips and tricks, all the newest technology for next year. If you didn't see last week's webinar with Zachary Walker on teaching the last backpack generation, you can still see that on Corwin Connect, which is our blog where we're hosting all of these webinars. So feel free to take a look around, subscribe for our weekly newsletter, and hope you enjoy kind of taking a look at what we've got on this site. Just a few things to keep in mind during the webinar. Follow the Plunge into Tech hashtag on Twitter. That's where we'll be monitoring questions and comments. But actually today we're doing something a little different. So Jared is going to show you we've got a new question and answer back channel that we're going to be monitoring. So Jared will explain that in just a minute. We're also giving away the Corwin Connected Educator series to 3 lucky recipients. So here's how it works. You just share a great idea that you have for using technology in the classroom on Twitter. Use the Plunge into Tech hashtag. And the more likes you get, the higher your chances are of winning. So please share your ideas and get all your friends to like them. And then last but not least, be sure to stick around to the end of the webinar so that you can download your certificate of completion. So without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce Jared Covili. Jared is the professional development trainer at the Utah Education Network, and he is the author of a best-selling book for us called Going Google. And we're so excited that the second edition is going to be coming out, I think in September, if that's right.
Yep.
Okay, awesome. Cool. Well, we can't wait for that to happen. And I'll hand it over now to Jared.
Well, thank you, Ariel. It's good to be with all of you today. I'm going to share my screen quickly so that we can see kind of what we have going on. Hopefully now we're full screen so you can kind of see what we have going on. Okay. I think you're seeing it now. Great.
Perfect.
So welcome. Today we're going to be talking about some great and fun ideas for going Google in your classroom. As Ariel mentioned, a few years ago I wrote a book for Corwin called Going Google, and it's currently in its second edition, just about to be released, with all the latest and greatest ideas for using Google in your classroom. I'm going to start our session today by trying something new with you. So this is something that I'll show you in a slide in just a few minutes, but let's go ahead and give it a shot right now. I'm using Google Slides for my presentation. That's kind of the PowerPoint version in Google that you'll find in Google Drive. And I want to show you something that they released just in the last few weeks that is something that you can use when you're doing presentations in your classroom. So a lot of us probably have presented using slides or using PowerPoint, and a lot of the times our students, they kind of get a little disengaged when we're up there doing PowerPoint or just kind of showing information. Well, Google wants to engage your audience by giving a new tab in your Google Slides presentation. I'm scrolling down to the bottom of my screen right now, and when I'm in Google Slides, I'm rolling over a tab called the Presenter View. As I select this, notice what happens here. It launches a new window, and it gives me the ability to turn on a question and answer session. Now, I turned this one on previously, so it's asking me if I want to continue what I started a moment ago. I'm going to turn that on really quick, and what you'll see on your end is that we just got a new banner across the top of my slides. This is actually going to allow you to ask questions during the session. At any point during the session, if I want to go in and check and see how things are going, or if my audience has any questions, I can just simply scroll back down to the bottom of my screen and click on the presenter view, and immediately I'll see any questions that anyone has. So at any point during the session today, if you want to ask me a question, you can go to the URL at the top of your screen, which is goo.goal/slides/MT4PR3. And in a moment, I'll actually ask you to go there. So if you want to take a moment at any point, like I say, just open a new tab in your browser and type in that URL and you should be good to go. So we'll experiment a little bit today while we try this. Okay, well, when I first get started, one of the big questions I always ask is, why has Google gotten so popular in the last 20 years? I mean, Google has actually only been around for 20 years this year. How did it get so big from what started as a search engine to really becoming an integral part of a lot of our classrooms today? I think it comes down to this idea. In the last 20 years, so much of our information has switched from being on the desktop to being up in the cloud. And what does it mean that we have information up in the cloud? Well, I believe it boils down to three big ideas. The first is it lets us connect with anyone. So before, we would have to get into small groups, and it would have to be something that was localized, where we could only work with the people in a specific classroom. Now, we can connect with anyone, whether or not they're in our classroom. Which leads into the second idea: we can connect with people from anywhere. Using a lot of the Google tools, you can connect with people not only from another room in your school, but you could connect with kids from another classroom in the United States or even across the world. It's really kind of changed the way that we do things to think about our global community of learners now. And the last thing that having information in the cloud does is it gives you access to your information at any time. I think back to when I first started teaching. During the summertime, if I had a great idea for a lesson that I had been working on, most of the time I would just be jotting down notes because all of my files were in a filing cabinet in my office, or they were stored on my computer in my classroom, and I couldn't have access to most of those files. But in the last 20 years, man, we've seen a radical change about how we can access our content from anywhere at any time. Well, today we're going to explore several great Google tools, and we're going to talk about some of the things you can do with them, and also some of the things that you can learn with your students and have projects that your students can do as well. So you can see some of the different tools that we're going to talk about today include Google Hangouts, which we're in right now. We'll talk a little bit about Google Classroom and YouTube, Google Calendar, Google Drive, Google Chrome as a browser, a tool that maybe some of you are a little less familiar with, Google Voice, and we'll also talk about using Google Photos as a tool in your classroom. But I've got a question for you right now. So using that URL at the top of the screen, I want you to go into that Q&A tool and share one Google tool that you've used in your classroom, okay? So one Google tool you've used in your classroom, okay? So I'll give you just a moment if you want to go and open that up. And again, once you open up this presenter view URL, you'll just have a place where you can type in your question or your comment. And if someone types in the same thing that you type in, you can give it a thumbs up, which means that you agree and you've used that tool as well. I'm going to switch out for just a second so that I can open up my Q&A here. I'll try and minimize that over on the side just a little bit, just so that I can kind of see when some of the questions and some of your responses start to come in. But as we use this Q&A tool, like I say, right now, if you just want to share one idea that you've used in your classroom, I'll be able to see this very quickly, and I can kind of show you how we can use this tool just in the Q&A portion of our class. So we'll just give you just a few seconds, and then we'll kind of move forward with the presentation. But you can see this is an easy way for me if I'm in a classroom with students that have any kind of a device, whether it's a laptop or a mobile device, for them, for you to get the students kind of involved in sharing with one another. Okay, maybe we'll come back to this in a minute if some of you post. I know sometimes it's a little hard because I'm breaking down the fourth wall here and trying to get more folks involved. I'm starting to see a couple of things coming in here. So we've got Sue and Ariel have both shared some ideas here. And notice here, I just want to show you one thing that I can do with this Q&A tab here. Because Sue's was not only her comment, but she also got a +1 here. If I click show, I just want you to notice that it it changes the order of the comments based upon how many votes they've received. I'll show you one other thing. At any point during my presentation, if I want to just click on Sue's comment and hit present, notice what that just did. That actually pulled her comment into my slide deck. So now Sue's comment is something that's part of my presentation. What a great way for me to get my students to feel like they're participating in the session as we go through and as I'm presenting different content to them. And I appreciate Sue telling us that she's using a lot of Google Drive in her classroom. So that's great to know. Okay, well, let's get back into our slide deck. The first thing that I'm going to talk about just for a moment is Google Hangouts. And as you know, we're in a Google Hangout right now. This is a fantastic way for you to use video as part of any lesson that you use with your students. Some of the features that are part of Google Hangouts is it's a video conferencing tool. One of the neat aspects of Google Hangouts that kind of makes it different from a lot of tools is you can conference with groups of individuals. So if you're thinking about like using your iPhone and you want to do a video conference and use FaceTime, it's pretty much a one-to-one video chat where I can just communicate with the other person on the other end. But with Google Hangouts, I can actually bring in multiple people. So I can have a conversation with several people at the same time, which is a great way for me to do something like having virtual study groups or doing different ideas where I can get my kids kind of involved. Another feature of Google Hangouts that a lot of people like is that you can switch from devices very easily. For example, if I'm at my school and I'm involved in a Hangout and I look at the clock and I notice that I need to get going, I can actually switch from my desktop in the Hangout to my mobile device. So I don't have to lose that connection. I can go from one device to another. It's a great way for you to kind of continue the conversation while you're on the move. A third thing that you can do that's a great way to use Google Hangouts in your classroom is you can actually schedule Hangouts within your Google Calendar. One of the options that you'll find when you create a calendar event is whether you want to add a video call to that calendar event. And that just schedules a Google Hangout that you can use. So as you can see, one of the neat parts about Google Hangouts is the ability to draw in a lot of different people. One of the ways that I see a lot of teachers using Google Hangouts is they try and bring in guest speakers to be part of the classroom conversation. And it gives the kids a chance to ask questions of that person live. Most of us have probably tried to bring in a guest speaker before, and it's really a challenge with schedules the way that they are and people are busy. So it's hard to get someone to come in and spend much more than a few minutes in your classroom. But using Google Hangouts, that's an easy way for us to bring someone in and have a conversation with them quickly. I like to share the story about using Google Hangouts on Air. This is what we're in right now as a Google Hangouts on Air. And a couple of the features that I'll just share briefly before I get into my story is one of the neat parts of this Hangouts on Air is that you can record these presentations, these video chats, or like Corwin is doing right now, we can broadcast it live. So imagine that you've got a guest speaker coming in and you want to share your ideas with a larger audience. All you need to do is provide the URL for your Hangout on Air, and you can allow multiple people to come in and watch that broadcast. It also gets recorded and it gets saved to a YouTube channel, so you can use it again later. What a great way to archive a great conversation so that your students can go back and refer to it even after class is over. This is a fantastic way that maybe you could do some of your own virtual study groups or different things. So a story that I like to tell is a teacher friend of mine was using the Shark Tank in his classroom as a way to teach marketing skills to his high school students. And he was trying to connect with this person right here. His name's Damon John. And Damon's on the Shark Tank, and he's one of the sharks who has made millions selling clothing. And Jeff, our marketing teacher from Layton, Utah, what he did is he used Google Hangouts as a way to bring Damon into his class with his students. We won't watch the video clip right now, but if you do a search on YouTube, you can type in Damon John Shark Tank Google Hangouts, and you'll actually see where Damon talked to Jeff's students, not only here in Utah, but Jeff reached out and got students to come in from several different states across the country, and they all participated in this great conversation where they were able to learn from one of the sharks. Another colleague of mine that I met in Rock Springs, Wyoming, he actually uses Google Hangouts once a week in his class on Tuesdays, and he calls it Interviews Days. And he brings in a different either community member or someone from a business that his students are interested in researching, and they have a conversation with that person so they can learn from each other. Google Hangouts is a fantastic way for you to bring a large audience together or to share with your students people from across the world. Well, let's look at a tool that most of you have probably seen and used over the years, but maybe I can give you a couple of ideas about how you can use Google Calendar a little bit more effectively. So this is a great way, Google Calendar is, to share your events. But something that I just want to point out to you, and I know it might be a little hard to see, so I'm going to actually kind of roll my mouse over this, and hopefully you can see my mouse. Now, I'm going to show you one other cool feature here in Google Slides. I need a laser pointer right now so that you can see what I'm talking about. And again, if I scroll over the lower left side of my Google Slide screen, Google's actually built in a laser pointer here for me. So I just want you to notice here, when you share your Google Calendar, and maybe you put it onto a website or you provide the URL for people, down in the bottom right corner of the screen is a little plus Google Calendar button. This is a fantastic tool that allows parents to subscribe to your calendar, which means that when they subscribe, now they can receive updates to your calendar on their mobile device or on their Google account so that they can look at those things whether they're on a laptop or on their cell phone. So one of the key things that I like to share with people is when you post your content in Google Calendar, make sure you get the parents to subscribe to that content using the little plus Google Calendar button. That's an easy way. Whoops, sorry about that. I didn't mean to escape my presentation there. That's an easy way for you to get your audience your information in a way that's convenient for them. You know, one other little feature that I like to point out in Google Calendar too, when you go into create a new calendar event, one of the options that you'll have if you kind of look through the event settings is the ability to attach files to events. So imagine that you've got something coming up in a week that's a field trip, maybe to a local destination. You want to go to the zoo with your students. And everybody knows that before we can go on the field trip, we need to have the permission slip signed. And you sent it home with the students, but of course, little Johnny somehow didn't give that to his parents, and so now it's missing. Using Google Calendar, we could attach that permission form to the event, and when parents see the calendar, they can just click on that, and that form will download for them so they can print and save that or email it to you with a signature on it. Google Calendar is a great way for you to share content with the parents in your classroom. And it's another thing that schools are doing as well to kind of involve the community so everyone knows about the community events going on at the school. There's my little Google Calendar option there. Well, let's look at another tool here. I mentioned Google Voice. Now, this is a tool that a few less people have used. Maybe they haven't experimented with it yet. But Google Voice is a voice messaging service from Google where you can get your own phone number. Now, here's the interesting thing about this. This phone number is actually not assigned to any specific device. Think about it. When you get a new cell phone, you have to port a number over, or you have to use a different number for every device or every phone that you have. For example, my office phone has a phone number, or my cell phone. Some of you even still have a home phone. All of those are different phone numbers associated with me. Google actually says, what if we gave you a phone number, though, and you can use it with any device that you want? Kind of like we do with email, right? I have one email address, and it doesn't matter whether I'm on my phone or my laptop. People can send me messages, and I can check them on whatever device I want. Well, Google Voice works much the same way. If I give people my Google Voice number, they can call, and I can pick up using any device that I want, even a computer or a cell phone or a landline. Just kind of depends on what I want to use. Now, that's great for you because it gives you more access to the information that maybe you need from parents and students. What a lot of teachers are using Google Voice for is a way to have a voice messaging line for parents and students. You know, traditionally when someone calls a teacher during classroom hours, that message gets sent to the office and someone transcribes it and then they stick a note in the teacher's box. And that teacher probably doesn't see that note until the end of the day. With Google Voice, if somebody called this number, one of the neat aspects of this is because it's tied to my Google account, immediately that phone call message is transcribed, and I can be sent a text message that gives me a transcription of the call. So I can know whether it's something that's urgent that I need to respond to a little bit more quickly, or if it's something that can wait until the end of the day. I just find that this is a fantastic way for us to share and be available for people, but not necessarily needing to respond immediately, but I can kind of make those decisions myself. One of the things that I always thought about when I got Google Voice was this was such a great thing for me as someone who taught at a high school level. And I had a lot of kids that were involved in clubs that I was a part of. And we would do things after hours. We would either have activities or when I was involved in coaching, we had practices and things. And I needed a way for the students to reach me, but I didn't really want to give out my cell phone number. And if the students called the office number, pretty soon after school, there was nobody there to answer those calls. And so students didn't really have a good way of reaching me. A Google Voice number provides you access without having to give out that cell phone number. So that's a great option for you to have a way for people to connect with you, but not necessarily to have your personal contact information. So if you haven't explored Google Voice yet, give it a try. You just have to go to voice.google.com and you can sign up for a phone number that will go with you regardless of whatever device you're on. Well, one of the big things that a lot of us like about Google is Google Drive. It's probably one of the more popular tools in the classroom today. And I thought we'd just take a few minutes to talk about some of the latest features that are in Google Drive, as well as to show you some of the ways that you can expand your Google Drive to do more for you and for your students. Okay, so here are a few of the latest features that are available in Google Drive. We'll just kind of talk about some of these. And I will leave the presentation for a moment and actually show you a few of these things as well. So you've already seen the first one here, Q&A and slides. So that just came out in the past few weeks. And like I say, that gives us the ability to have more of a discussion when we're doing a presentation. Another tool that came out in the last few months is voice dictation in Google Docs, where you can actually have your students talk and Google will go through and transcribe the voice into text. And that's built right into your Google Docs, and I'll show you in a moment where you can get access to that. Another neat aspect of Google is third-party apps that you can plug into your Google Drive that actually allow you to connect with other programs beyond Google Drive, and the content that you create in those programs can be saved in your Google Drive account. So for example, there are tools that allow us to do video editing, maybe some photo editing. We can create different kinds of graphic organizers, and any of those tools that we create or those projects that we make, as we save them, will be saved online in the cloud in my Google account. We'll show you how you do that in just a moment. Another neat tool is what's called Explore that's been recently added into Google Sheets, which allows me when I click on a button to it creates graphics or charts of the data that's in my spreadsheet automatically, which is a fun way for you to visualize that information and be able to use that as part of your classroom lesson. The last new thing that I was going to share that just barely came out is Google Forms now has an option for quizzes. Maybe over the past few years, some of you have tried using Flubaroo in order to turn a Google form into an assessment where you have a multiple choice quiz. Well, Google has seen the demand, and so they've added a new button into Google Forms where you can turn any Google form into a quiz, so that when the students go in and respond to the form, they can find out whether they've got right answers to multiple choice questions. Finally, the last thing I'll show you is add-ons in Google Docs and Sheets and Forms. These are third-party programs that are installed right into Docs, Sheets, or Forms, and they perform a variety of tasks that are amazing for your classroom use. Well, let's go in and look at a few of these tools that we've written down here and kind of show you a couple of things. I'm going to start first with the third-party applications or apps that you can plug into your Google Drive. Now, I want you to notice most of us are fairly comfortable when we go to Google Drive and we click on the new button that this is where we can upload files or folders that we've had previously. We can create new documents, sheets, or slides, right? But as we come down and click on more, I just want you to notice that when you click on More, this little window kind of pops out, this extra menu. Now, a lot of us will notice that that's where we can create our forms or Google Drawings or some of those kinds of things. But what you may not have seen before are some of these applications that I've actually connected just by coming down to the bottom of the screen and using the Connect More Apps option. That's where you can go in and you can find new apps that you can connect. I'm going to escape my presentation just for a second so that I can show this to you quickly. So here I am, I'm at Google Drive, and I'm going to go down to the New option. I'm going to go down to More, and as I scroll down to the bottom of this, you'll see that this is where I can connect more apps. Now, notice here, it gives me a whole collection of different third-party applications that I can connect to my Google Drive. What I might suggest for you as teachers is that you come over, or as educators, is come over to the drop-down menu where it says All, and maybe switch this down to the education platform. So instead of us looking at every app that's been designed by developers for Google Drive, these are our specific ones that you can use in the classroom. I might just share a couple of them just so that you can kind of get a sense of what a couple of these do. So I'm going to come back to my presentation and we'll just kind of mention a couple of these quickly here. So two that I really like, one is for photo editing. It's called Pixlr Editor. And you can see in this, it actually lets me launch a full, well, I can't say full, but a fairly comprehensive browser where I can go through and use some of the same tools that you might find in your Photoshop, but I can use them up in the cloud, and I can edit my photos online in this Pixlr Editor software. And you can just see over here on the side some of the great tools that I have. I have painting tools, I have cropping and selection tools. I mean, I really can do quite a bit with Pixlr to help me edit my photos. And the great thing again is when I'm done editing a photo, as I save that, it just gives me the option to save that right back to my Google Drive where my students can have access to it in the cloud, regardless of whatever device they're on. Another great tool that I like that's a third-party app that you can connect is called MoveNote. And they specifically have one for education. So MoveNote for Education is the one I'm showing you here. This is a great tool for you as you look to maybe flip your classroom. One of the things that a lot of us are looking to do is to share our content online so that students can look at it after hours. Well, MoveNote, one of the things that it allows us to do is it allows us to upload our presentation, maybe, like this one here, and I can actually share my own comments or my own feedback as part of that presentation. So instead of me just uploading the slides and having students just click through the slides without any of my commentary, I can actually turn on a video record, or I can do an audio record, and I can go through the presentation live and just share it one time so it's recorded, and then students just go back and watch the recorded version where they have not only the slides on the left, but they also have me talking on the right. That's a huge idea for the flipped classroom because so many of us, we're looking for ways that we can expand upon the information to really get students to the heart of the content. And if we just put the slides up there with no other commentary, boy, there's so much information that the students will miss out on, because so much of what we do when we present live is we add those nuggets that kind of give that nuance to the presentation and help students learn. So that's a couple of those add-ons that I just wanted to share with you. Let me just go back here just again so you can see if I want to add any of those into my Google Drive, it's very simple. I just click on one of those options and connect it. And in just a few seconds now, that one will be part of my list. So it really is just that simple to connect a third-party application into my Google Drive. So if you haven't done that yet, I'd suggest spend a moment or two and see if you can find some great content that you can expand your Google Drive with. Okay. Now, another feature that we have here in Google Docs is a couple things that I want to show you concerning add-ons, and then I also want to show you that tool called Google Slides Explorer. Google Sheets Explorer. And I want to show you how to do voice dictation. So I'm just going to leave my presentation for a moment, And I'm going to show you first how to turn on some of the great tools in Google Docs, as well as Google Sheets. And then we'll come in and we'll look at some of these great add-ons, and I'll pull up a list of some of the ones that I like the most, and we'll kind of give you some ideas of how to get started with those. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to open a blank Google Doc here just so you can kind of see what I have. Let's make a brand new one, nothing special. But in this Google Doc, I just want to show you how you can increase some of your tools that you have with your Google account. Okay, so notice here I'm in a blank document. I'm going to go up under the Tools menu. Let me make this just slightly larger so that you can see it just a little better. Sorry about that. So I'm going to go into my Tools menu, and notice some of the great tools you have here. This is where, if I scroll down about halfway down my screen here, you can see that I've got voice typing. And look how easy this is to enable and use. So I'm just going to select voice typing, and you can see it turns on over here on the left. As soon as I'm ready to get going, I'll just click to speak, and then it will ask me the first time to authorize my microphone, and after that I can just talk. Let's show you how easy that is to use. So as I talk, the program is listening to me and it wants to transcribe my text. Period. So look at how that program has listened to what I said and transcribed it. Now, of course, you have to enunciate and kind of go slowly, but I think I was talking at a fairly normal rate. I don't think I was talking like this so that I paused between each word. Rather, I just kind of talked conversationally, but I didn't try and talk super fast. And it went through and transcribed what I had written. What a great tool for us, for some of our students that aren't quite as used to typing yet, but are very conversational. This is a great way for maybe us, some of our younger students, actually putting their thoughts down on paper instead of just having discussions with them all the time. Maybe this is a way that we can get some of our younger students to actually write. And I know I'm using that term kind of loosely here because I know the computer's doing the writing. But this is a fantastic way for some of your students that maybe the keyboard or typing is the hindrance, right? I think about some of maybe our second language learners that this could benefit as well. But that's a neat new feature there inside of our Google tools. Well, maybe I'll just show you one other tool that I really like in here as well. If you haven't looked at the tools menu here in Google Docs, another great tool is the research tool. I just want you to notice when I click on the research tool, look what happens over here on the right. It opens up a window that gives me the option to search for things. Like, let's say I'm writing a paper and I need the Google logo to be part of that. So I can come over here and type Google logo, and you can see very quickly I get some images to show up, and I can click on those to see what they look like live on the web, right? Okay, so I can kind of see that. But I can also come in here and switch to images, and they all become images now. And I can take any one of those images and drag that over into my document. I'm just doing a left click and drag. Notice what it does. It embeds that picture, and I can move that around, right? So if I want to wrap text around that, or maybe do something a little different here, okay, I can kind of put that into my paper where I want that to go. But I want you to notice that as I'm kind of playing around with this, something interesting has happened here. It also gave me a little number 1 for that. And look what it's done. It's actually created the end note for where that picture came from, so that I'm creating my citations on the fly, so I'm not forgetting to cite my sources as I pull in this content from the web. But this research tool, man, it's fantastic. It's got all kinds of great stuff in it, from quotes, scholarly journals. It gives kids a dictionary, and it also lets them create their own tables and charts and all kinds of things. So if you haven't seen that, I definitely wanted you to see that. A great little tool for you, okay? And then I can, of course, I can just click on this and remove it if I don't want that, okay? And I can get rid of all the evidence there of anything that I had, okay? So that's another tool here in the tools menu called the research tool. If you haven't seen that, hopefully that was something new that can give you some great ideas for using that with your next research project with your students in the fall. Well, one other tool that I mentioned to you that I wanted to make sure I show is inside of Google Sheets. So notice here, this is just a little spreadsheet where somebody's documenting life insurance. And it's got a bunch of numbers in here to kind of show you how if you stick with one program, it's going to go up. If you stay with this one, it stays the same, right? But I want you to notice something very quickly here. In the bottom right corner of my screen, a new button has just lit up in my Google Sheets. It's called the Explore button. And look what it says, Explore your data. Let's take a quick peek at this and see what this does. It's going to go through and look at all of the data associated with this spreadsheet, and it's going to turn it into a graphic so that I can very easily see some of the changes that are being made here. This is a great way. Whoops, let me decline that. Sorry about that. Got a phone call coming in. But this is an easy way for you to take data and actually visualize it. Look, when I roll over this one, it highlights the columns and shows you what the different charts mean. At any point, too, you can notice this. I can insert that as a chart. So that just grabs that. And now I can copy that. I can paste that. I can move that into a spreadsheet or a slideshow presentation, a Google Doc. I can pretty much do whatever I want with that. Such a great new tool here from Google Sheets to actually take that data and visualize it. Absolutely love that. So if you haven't seen that one, I wanted to make sure I showed that to you as well. Well, the last thing I'm going to show you here in Google Docs for just a moment is, like, if I come back to my presentation for a second, I want to show you these things called add-ons. Okay, so add-ons, just like we saw a moment ago where I can add content into my Google Drive, I can also add content straight into one of the individual programs, Docs, Sheets, or Forms. And you'll see that there's a little menu here called add-ons where I can get add-ons, and I can just insert some of these tools into my documents. Okay, I'm going to just pull up a slide that shows you some of my favorites, and then we'll go through and I'll just point out a few features of some of these. In the limited time that we have, I won't be able to do very many, but I'll show you at least a couple of these so you can see how they work. But here are some of my favorites. So when you go back later, if you want to look at the archive, or if you want to do a quick screen grab of this just so that you can have those, these are 10 that I use constantly. Now, keep in mind that the first few are specific to Google Docs, and then a couple of these can be used in Google Sheets, and then the last few are some that you can use in Google Forms. Okay. Now, just know that when you install one of these, it's installed every time you use. If I take EasyBib and install it in my Google Docs, it doesn't matter what document I'm in, EasyBib will be available for me. It doesn't matter what form I'm in, once I install form notifications, that's part of my Google Forms. Let's just show you what I'm talking about when I use a couple of these. So I've already installed several of these, so let's just show you an example here. Let's say I need to have my students create a bibliography. So I'm going to go into EasyBib, which is a bibliography tool. Again, you'll see a window pops open on the side here, and I can create citations very quickly for books, articles, or websites. So let's say we want to create one. Let's get an interesting book here. We'll go Classroom in the Cloud. Ariel will know which one I'm talking about here. So I'm just going to do a quick search on that. And notice what it does. It asks me if I want to cite this and I want to use MLA. I could change this and make it APA, or I could use Chicago, whatever I want. But notice this great book down here called Classroom in the Cloud, Innovative Ideas for High Level Learning. And you might recognize the author's name there. Look how easy this is for me to cite this source, though. I just click Select. It will create the citation. And now when I'm ready to put that into my project, I just click Add. And just like that, I've created a works cited for that book. And I can go through and do that with any number of books. If I do one for the Going Google book, same concept, very easy. I just click on that, I select that, and now I can add that to my bibliography as well. So in seconds, I can create my citations for my projects. And I can almost hear you through the computer saying, where was that when I was in college? But it's here now, so it's an absolutely fantastic tool that's easy for you to use. A few of the other ones that I liked, as I mentioned a moment ago, if some of you work in teaching math, you'll notice this great one called Google Math, or GMath. It actually allows you to create handouts that have mathematic formulas in them. And that's usually a challenge for us because a lot of the symbols don't quite work in, tools like Google Docs. And so this is a way for you to be able to chart and graph and do all kinds of fun things. Another one that I like quite a bit is this one called MindMeister. Let me see if I can show this to you just quickly here. If I come back into my, excuse me, and I don't see the document that I'm looking for, so we'll just skip over that. But MindMeister actually allows you to create mind maps. You can just highlight any content that you want that's in a document, hit insert, and it will format that content as a mind map. Another one that I like quite a bit is this one called the Word Cloud Generator. So as you select this, I just highlight the text. I'll just do this page I'm on right now, and I'll create a word cloud from this. This is a great way for me if I'm having students write to make sure they maintain the proper focus. The word comes up the most should be the primary, some of the primary parts of this document. You can see in mine, it shows you that learning is a big deal, and in these two references that my name is part of them. So that shows you that that's all part of that. What a great way though for you to quickly assess student writing and see kind of what they're up to. Okay, well, in interest of time, we won't show all the rest of these, but I might just mention a couple other ones. When you're in a Google sheet, GMath, again, will help you create mathematical formulas. And split names is one that I absolutely love. I mean, how often do you get some data back and the kids put first and last name in the same cell, and you need to be able to sort it by last name? Well, split names allows you to create that very quickly, where you can take a column and split it into two columns. Excuse me, I apologize. But you can split that into two columns, one being the first name and one being the last name. So that's an easy way for you to do something like that. And then finally, when you're in Google Forms, you notice some of these great ones here. A form limiter, normally when you turn on a form, the only way to turn it off is to manually turn it off, but Form Limiter actually lets you go in and tell it what day and time to turn off a form. Or if you only want to receive 10 responses to a form, you can set it so that after 10 responses to turn the form off. Again, a great option for you to change kind of some of the ways that you receive submissions on Google Forms. I love this one for kids too, this option of choice eliminator. What a great idea. It's kind of like the old game show, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, where you can narrow it down to 50-50 from 4 answers. I love that concept that you can very easily help students kind of look through the information. Well, those are some great new features there in Google Drive that I just wanted to share with you quickly. Excuse me. Google Photos is another new tool that some of you maybe haven't had a chance to play with. In Google Photos, it's really amazing. It's something that started as an app on your device, and now is also something that you can use on your desktop or laptop as well. It provides you with a minimum of 15 gigabytes of storage, but you can increase your storage to unlimited if you choose. When you set up your account, you can actually change the settings so that it's unlimited use. If you allow Google to, I'm blanking on the right term, but if you allow Google to reduce the quality of the picture slightly, but allows it for a faster upload. So it won't be 100% highest quality, rather it'll be more like 90% highest quality, but a little smaller file size that allows for a quicker upload. So Google calls it maximizing their storage. So you can use their storage with unlimited photos if you simply send up a slightly smaller, slightly modified version of the photo. Another neat tool in Google Photos is they have built-in tools in the phone app that allow you to create collages, videos, even animated GIFs. You can make your own animated GIFs using the animation feature. And it's not in my slide, but one of the things I really like about Google Photos is it also provides you with the ability to create shared folders so that your students can actually upload maybe some of the content they're creating straight into a shared folder. You can imagine on something like a student art night where students could be walking around taking pictures and share all those pictures into one gallery for the whole class to kind of see. if you haven't explored Google Photos yet, it's kind of a fun tool, and you can get started at it at photos.google.com if you haven't taken a look at it. It also has an Android app as well as an iPhone app that you can use so that you can use the cell phone camera that you have. One tool that I found that a lot of teachers are still using, but maybe we haven't thought about for a while, is Blogger. You know, as a former English teacher, Blogger was a great tool for my students to write and share their ideas. And it's a great opportunity for me as an educator to maybe go deeper with some of my thoughts about a topic in education. You know, one of the things I'm seeing a lot lately is people are doing Twitter conversations. And I find that Twitter, with such a short microblog format where you only get 140 characters, it's a great way to start a conversation, but using Blogger, you can go in and share so much more depth about your ideas when you're writing them down in a blog format. You know, one of the things I found that a lot of teachers also like about Blogger is students who have an email address can actually just type a post in an email, and when they hit send, it automatically will post that to the web on their blog. That's a feature that you can set up in your Blogger account, where you can do a direct email to post feature. So students don't even have to open up a browser necessarily to type a blog post. They can just do that on their mobile device and their email client, or like I say, on a desktop or a laptop. They can quickly jump in, type a quick email, hit send, and by sending it to their blog, it will automatically post, and it will even post images in that as well. So you don't have to upload the images separately. You can just attach those to an email, and you'll have those as part of that. So if you haven't seen Blogger lately, there's some pretty neat tools in there that you can use to get kids writing. Well, another feature that isn't necessarily a software tool like we've talked about so far is Google Cardboard. I don't know how many of you have seen this last couple of years, but Google Cardboard is really just like it sounds like. It's a piece of cardboard that's been kind of formatted so that you can turn it into a viewfinder. Like so many of us who were raised in the 70s and 80s, we remember the old Viewmasters, where you could look at a slide, you know, through kind of a carousel, and it would transport you to different places around the world. Google's taken advantage of the fact that so many of our students now have mobile devices, and they've created this viewer so that you can really immerse yourself in a 360-degree experience of locations from around the world. One of the tools that Google has put out there for teachers using this is called Google Expeditions, and it actually has a way that you can turn Android, and now they just released versions that are starting to do iPhones, but you can actually take your kids on a guided virtual field trip. And there are several of these that have already been created, and you actually have the ability to create these yourself. With the app Google Street View, you can actually take your own photos and create your own 360-degree views of places around the world that you want to show your students. If you haven't explored Google Cardboard yet, it is absolutely fantastic. And there are tons of different ways that you can get these for your classroom. They come in all different shapes, colors, sizes, and price points, to be honest with you. But I've seen them as cheap as under $2 all the way up through virtual glasses that might cost, you know, upwards of $20 to $30, depending on what features you have on them. But for a classroom, man, what a great way for you to get kids out exploring places that they might never be able to go. And you can do that all virtually in your classroom. One other tool that I just wanted to share quickly, if you're using YouTube, but you haven't heard of YouTube Editor yet, I just want to mention this to you as a tool where you can take your own YouTube videos and you can splice them or mash them together and create some amazing new content. The other thing that you can do with the YouTube editor is you can actually use Creative Commons content that's up online, and you can bring that in to a timeline editor like you see here, and you can create some amazing fun videos. You can put your own text, you can add music to them, transitions, all the things that you might think of. You can create those all for free and all online in the cloud. The way to get started with the YouTube editor is to go to youtube.com/ editor, and you'll be in a window where you can start to create your own stories. And like I say, in addition to you being able to create your own content and kind of mash it up, I'm just going to show this over here. This is some of my own content here. If I use the tools across the top, one of these is the Creative Commons button here, and that will allow me to use content that is available on the web where the copyright permission has been granted for students' use. So what a great way for your students maybe to make a current events video. In Google terms, they call them the zeitgeist videos, where they kind of do the year in review. But this is a fantastic option for your students to go through and kind of create their own videos and share them. I post one slide here, just, if you haven't explored much with Google search lately, I just want you to know that there are all kinds of different options for you as far as search goes. Some of the new tools include searching by using your voice. You can imagine earlier I showed you how you can speak and it will transcribe your speech into text. But using the search tool, it can do the same thing. If you click the little microphone in the Google search box, it'll let you talk and conduct searches based upon what you say. Google's not done there, though. They even have another new feature called image search, where I can select an image on the screen and drag it to the search box, and immediately I'm searching for images or content related to that image. And I can search for file types. I don't have to just search for websites. I can search for maybe a PowerPoint or something. For younger students, one of the tools I really love about search is called the Google Custom Search Engine. You can see that that is a tool that actually allows me to create my own customized Google search, where as students type in a term, it will only search the websites that I've authorized for that search. This is, again, one of those options that gives students the ability to search the web, especially our younger students, but maybe not to get content that they're not prepared for. As we know, a Google search doesn't really filter search results. It just brings back kind of a little bit of everything. So maybe a custom search is a way for teachers to have a little bit more control over some of the sites that you're looking for information. Well, we're just about out of time. I'm going to share one or two more things with you, and then we'll kind of wrap up here. Just 1 second here. Okay. One other tool that doesn't get a lot of attention, but might be something that you might think of using yourself, is called Google Alerts. You can see you get to this at alerts.google.com. But here you can type in a search term and actually create an alert that provides you with information about that topic in an organized fashion. You can see here, I can pick for it to send me information once a day. It can send me information from any place in the world or something closer to home. I can search for different types of results. For example, I could search just news stories, or I could search any kind of content. But it will send me that information in a digest depending on how I set that up. A great way for students who are about to start a research project to get the latest information. So they can create a Google alert, and let's say once a day, as new content is typed on the web, Google will automatically compile that information and send the student an email that contains links to the latest content about the topic that they've chosen. That's a fun, easy way for you to get students kind of starting a research project and finding the latest and greatest. Or even yourselves, right? If you're going back to school and you're working on a project and you want to get the most recent information, this is a fantastic way for you to get that, as well as to use alerts.google.com. Well, one of the new features that a lot of people really love in Google is Google Classroom. It's a fantastic online virtual classroom that you've created, and it allows you to assign your students assignments and projects, and you can collect those virtually through or electronically through using Google Classroom. Other features that it has is it allows you to make announcements. You can do basic assessments and provide quizzes. And for most teachers, one of their favorite things is they can grade all of this content online. It's a fantastic kind of alternative to a learning management tool for a lot of schools, because it does just what teachers are looking for. Teachers want a way to assign students projects and collect them without having to have students email them or submit them, through paper. This is an easy way for you to kind of combine the best of Google Drive and Google Classroom so that you can grade these assignments and share that with the students directly. Google Classroom right now is only available for Google Apps for Education districts. So if you're not in one of those districts, currently you won't be able to use this. But new features are being added all the time, and it actually is constantly being updated to provide you with even more ability to share and collect from students. So if you haven't explored this yet, I think this is one of those tools. It's a real game changer that's out there. I'll kind of skip over that one for time. The last thing I just want to share with you is how you can customize your Google Chrome browser just a little bit. One of the great tools that most of us are seeing, or we're going to see soon in our classrooms, are the Chromebooks. And it's such a great cost-effective way for us to get our students to access the internet and to, create and share content. Well, one of the things that you might want to look at as you use Google Chrome as a browser are what are called Google Chrome extensions. These are third-party applications, again, that you can plug into your Google Chrome that allow you to perform a variety of functions. I'm going to pull up a list real quick that just shows you a few of my favorite ones. Again, if you want to do a screen grabber, check this later in the archive so that you can get a better list of these. See, some of these are just amazing little third-party applications. I'm going to be able just to, in the brief time we have, just to show you a couple of these. And then, like I say, if you want to come back to this later, you can see some of the rest of them. I'm going to leave my presentation just for a moment so I can show this to you. The first one on our list is called Synergize, okay? And I want to show this to you here. That actually shows up here in my Google Drive as a circle with a question mark in the middle of it. And Synergize is available in any of the Google app tools. Look what it does. When I click on this here, I'm in Google Slides right now. It opens up and it wants me to search for a topic about the tool I'm in, and it will provide me with ready reference. So let's use an example here. Let's say I want to ask questions in Google Slides. I'm going to select that as something that maybe I want to learn about. Notice what happened over here on the lower left corner of my screen. It opened up a little window. Now, I know you won't be able to hear this very well, so I'm going to just turn off the audio. But it's actually got an uploaded presentation that has kind of an animation going at the bottom of it, and it talks me through the specific task that I'm looking to do. So when I install Synergize, I can very easily have kind of a ready guide to help me with Google. So after this presentation is over and I'm no longer the talking head that you're listening to, if you wanted to get more advice on how to do certain things in Google, beyond, of course, purchasing the book Going Google, you can go to Synergize and download an app that will kind of walk you through different functions that you're trying to perform in Google. Now, some of you may be saying, but Jared, I don't know quite how you installed that Synergize. So it's very easy to install. You have to go to the Google Chrome Web Store. Now, if you're in your Google Chrome browser, in the top right corner of the browser are 3 buttons up here. If I click on that, that brings me to the menu. And these extensions are located in the menu option called More Tools. So when I click on More Tools in the menu for Google Chrome, you'll see about a third of the way down there is Extensions. As I select that, it opens up, shows you any extensions that you may have already installed. Now you can see I've got a bunch, but it also gives you the option to get more extensions. So as I click that, that's the shortcut that takes you straight to the Chrome Web Store in the Extensions option. And there are, again, hundreds of these little extensions that you can plug into your browser. And the neat part about this, because it's cloud-based, if you are signed into your Chrome browser, these will go with you when you switch computers. If you sign into another computer, you can have access to those on that other computer. But those are what I'm calling some of my favorite Chrome extensions. Synergize is definitely one of them. I might just mention one more called Extensity. This one actually lets you control all of your extensions. So when you get a bunch of these installed, this tool will let you kind of control those. Well, I'm running out of time. I apologize for going a little bit long. I just want to remind you that all of these great Google tools are fantastic, but really the whole goal is how we help our students relate to information and learn more about the world around them. And I think some of these great Google tools help us to do that. As we kind of wrap up, I'm going to just post a final slide here about how you can get access to some more content. And I'm going to turn it over to Ariel so that she can kind of tell you how to conclude our session. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jared. I mean, that was awesome, and I'm already so excited to try out some of these tools. I mean, I just love how much Google has built into their platforms and what you can do, and that's one of the reasons why we did want to use Google Hangouts on air for this webinar series. So that was incredibly helpful. Thank you. We do have some questions that were coming in over, our Q&A tool, which is pretty exciting. So Sue asked. She said she saw a tweet yesterday that Google Hangouts is being phased out. Do you know if that is true?
I have not heard that. They've actually separated it to be a standalone tool. So as far as my knowledge is concerned, they're not trying to get rid of it. They're not using it in combination with Google Plus anymore, but now it's its own kind of standalone tool. I have not heard that, Sue. So if I can't confirm that, but right now I haven't heard anything about that.
Okay, good to know. And then Sue also asked, with Google Voice, can people send a text message or does it have to be a voice recording?
Google Voice will allow you to send text messages through that number, as well as to do regular phone calls.
Okay. I think that's all of the questions that we have. I'm just looking to see on Twitter if anyone else asked, but oh, I think there's one more. Just a second. Does the research tool create citations for more than just images?
Right now, it will create, the research tool will create citations for any of the content that you search for in it. So if I take a quote or I find a website that I drag over and pull in, it will create endnotes for any of those kinds of content. But like you noticed, if I wanted to create something that was offline, like a book or something, I could use that EasyBib tool to create those citations.
Awesome. Okay, well, I think that's it. Jared, are you going to send your slides by any chance?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. That's not a problem.
Okay. So we can put the slides up on the Corwin Connect page. So for those folks who want to stick around and review the slides later or come back and download your certificate of completion, you can access it that way. And obviously the QR code is also up on the screen. So you can just scan that to download your certificate. But thank you again, Jared, so much. This is incredibly helpful, and I hope everyone enjoyed, and come back next week. We'll be talking about making learning personal and personalized learning with Kathleen McClaskey and Barbara Bray. So please be sure to come back next week for that. All right, take care, everyone.